AC/DC rocked the world with Back in Black, way back in 1980, with an energetic sound, crazy live shows, and a rebirth that would mark one of the best-selling studio albums of all time. Now they're back again, with their first album in 6 years. Let's dive into Power Up. Back then, the band was still recovering from the loss of their singer Bon Scott, who died from alcohol poisoning just 5 months before the band released their first breakthrough success with Back in Black. That later went on to become a 25-time platinum-selling record. Even though the AC/DC vets were now adjusting to the new frontman Brian Johnson on a personal level, his unique style meshed perfectly with the band, and his vocals became just as iconic as the guitar-shredding styles of Angus and Malcolm Young. And over the past decade, the band was looking for a way to reinvigorate their sound again, following their 2015 Rock or Bust tour. The declining health of the now older rock stars almost signaled the end of the band once again. During the Rock or Bust tour, doctors told singer Brian Johnson that he would go deaf if he didn't stop touring immediately. Of course, even the most metal of rockers would probably heed the call of doctors, and Johnson did take a step back, and the Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose filled in for him so AC/DC could finish out their tour. After the tour concluded, bassist Cliff Williams announced his retirement, and even the band's longest drummer, Phil Rudd, had to skip the tour because he was sentenced to house arrest following a conviction on drug charges and threats to kill. The train wreck didn't stop there. In a tragic turn of events, just before the tour, rhythm guitarist Malcolm Young was diagnosed with dementia and had to be replaced with his nephew Stevie Young. Then, things kept getting worse. Malcolm passed away in 2017 from complications with dementia. Another of the Young brothers, George, stepped up to take his place. George Young had worked with the band a number of times as a co-producer, so he was a natural fit. Despite looking and feeling like a used battery, the band wanted to literally bring the power back with their 16th international release, Power Up. Angus was the last man standing from the original lineup. The pressure and sadness accompanied by the loss of his friends, family, and fellow bandmates doesn't evoke the same headbanging styles that they've become known for. But although Angus was the last of the original lineup, he wasn't alone. He didn't have to come up with all the ideas himself. Young dug into the archives and vaults of all of the band's recording sessions to dig up some unused song ideas. What he found exploded into 12 tracks that kept the same electric energy the band has been known for since their debut, High Voltage, back in 1975. Angus harnessed the raw musical energy from the band's unused ideas and channeled his own feelings to make some powerful callbacks to the band's roots, while other tracks like Through the Mists of Time offer a nostalgic and melancholy moment that's uncharacteristic but absolutely essential for this album, given the band's recent history. But Angus didn't just rely on a backup catalog to produce the album, because even with the songs ready to go, he still had to contend with Johnson's hearing loss. Amazingly, Johnson defied the odds and harnessed medical breakthroughs in order to sing on the Power Up album. While you might think Johnson blew out his ears from years of standing next to high-powered amps on stage, his hearing loss was mainly caused by racing cars instead. Johnson used an experimental new technology alongside an audio expert he allegedly met right here on YouTube of all places. The technique worked to regain his hearing, and Johnson was good to go. The pair rehired Phil Rudd after he served a sentence, much to the dismay of fans. Fans and analysts feared Rudd would delay recording with more drama or derail shows. He managed to be consistent while he could, but Rudd did have to take a break from recording for issues beyond his control. He actually suffered a heart attack and had to undergo therapy before he was finally deemed rehabilitated. The band added back bassist Williams to complete the ensemble, with many fans fearing he would simply depart again at random. Williams announced his comeback to pay tribute to Malcolm Young, so while he might not tour as much, his contributions to Power Up were vital to the classic sounds the band came through with on the album. The tracks on Power Up feel a lot like their early 2000s material, with many of the ideas stemming from their 2008 sessions for Black Ice. and each track carries with it that same crank it up to 11 energy that Malcolm Young helped pioneer with the band. The opener, Realize, is a standard AC/DC track with the chugging riffs you'd expect from the guys. A few songs on the album come off a bit too clean and overproduced for a rock outfit, with the band's producer, Brendan O'Brien, opting to fill in gaps between instruments with backing vocals to keep the sound full. The crew did their best to keep the album familiar. While Angus donned his 1950s schoolboy getup once again for the album, Johnson kept the lyrics on par with the band's past material, referencing women, double entendres, and the rock and roll lifestyle on the songs Witch's Spell and Money Shot. The album's lead single, Shot in the Dark, mixes elements of AC/DC's classic riffs with a dance beat, while Kick You When You're Down kicks listeners with a catchy guitar hook and a great mix that accentuates Johnson's harsh vocals. Johnson kicks in his lower register throughout the album, and the band even backs him up on the song Wild Reputation. The band employs bluesy licks, particularly with Angus Young's lead on Demon Fire. Although the song itself is a far cry from the sad songs of the blues genre, the closing track, Code Red, features lyrics that feel like a mashup of many of AC/DC's greatest hits, with lines about tearing up the highway, and guitar lines that will feel familiar to the fans of their 70s material. Despite all members of the current lineup reaching retirement ages, with everyone between the ages of 63 and 73, AC/DC proved they've recharged themselves and truly powered back up. Johnson even expressed that the album was designed to lift the spirits of listeners burdened by the pandemic. The famed rock and roll singer hoped that Power Up would inspire people to go out and buy instruments instead of staying glued to their phones watching TikTok, an especially poignant thought, considering the age of the rockers, plus the pandemic, might mean that AC/DC will have already had their farewell tour without even realizing it at the time. AC/DC always saw themselves as a force of electric power, and they stayed true to that vision on their latest album that became the fastest-selling album of 2020. Have you listened to Power Up yet? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, click the like button and subscribe for more music videos.